Zion Williamson's situation in New Orleans is far from ideal. In his sixth NBA season, the former #1 pick has been plagued by constant injuries and, worse, appears disconnected from the Pelicans' future. Just 10 games played this season. 10. For a player once projected as the next face of the league, this is simply unacceptable. The recent suspension for violating team policies after missing a flight to a crucial game against the Philadelphia 76ers was yet another sign that things aren't right. Is Zion a victim of a toxic environment, or has he simply given up on the Pelicans project? Which leads us to the burning question: could Boston be the ideal destination to revive his career? Zion Williamson is undoubtedly one of the most electrifying talents the NBA has seen in years. However, his injury history, questionable conditioning, and a playstyle that demands an entire system be built around him raise doubts about whether he's truly the player any team needs. For the Celtics, who operate under a well-defined system led by Joe Mazzulla, Zion could be more of a burden than a benefit. The Celtics' scheme is centered around spacing, constant movement, and three-point shooting. It's a system that thrives on fluidity, which explains the success of players like Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis, who are versatile and contribute in various ways. Zion, while one of the most efficient players in the paint, lacks reliability in mid- and long-range shooting, limiting his adaptability to this system. His presence would demand adjustments that could disrupt the team's offensive flow, particularly by crowding the space Tatum and Porzingis need to operate effectively. Moreover, Zion is a player who requires being the focal point of any team he plays for. He demands a high volume of ball possession, which doesn't align with the offensive balance the Celtics have cultivated. Imagine an offense where Zion monopolizes the paint, taking opportunities away from Porzingis to stretch the floor, or Al Horford to exploit his outside shooting. What seems like a powerful addition on paper could quickly turn into a clash of play styles, limiting the team's collective potential. If the Celtics were to pursue this trade, it's hard not to view it as an act of desperation. Despite recent inconsistencies, Boston remains one of the most competitive teams in the NBA. Jason Tatum is a top MVP candidate. Jaylen Brown continues to be one of the league's best wings, and the rest of the roster, though expensive, has enough depth to contend for a title. Trading a solid core for Zion would be a reactive move, driven more by the allure of media relevance and market excitement than strategic logic. Zion's track record is full of unfulfilled promises. Since entering the league, he's played in less than half of his potential games. This statistic not only questions his durability, but also the feasibility of building a team around him. That risk isn't just in what Zion may or may not bring to the court. His arrival would carry massive expectations, not just for individual performance, but also for immediate results. And if he falls short, the pressure from Boston's demanding fanbase and media, some of the most critical in the NBA, could quickly shift the narrative from Zion being a savior to a costly failure. Such a trade, if unsuccessful, could cause irreparable damage to the team's culture, something that has taken years to build. The truth is, the Celtics already have the pieces needed to compete at the top. Their inconsistencies this season reflect adjustments that still need to be made, not a structural flaw requiring drastic changes. Zion is not the magic solution some might imagine. In fact, he presents more problems than answers. One question needs to be asked: why change the course of a team that's already a title favorite? Zion is both a financial and sporting risk. His arrival would require changes to the scheme, compromise roster flexibility, and bring more uncertainties than guarantees. What if Zion Williamson, instead of being the solution the New Orleans Pelicans hoped for, is actually the franchise's biggest problem? It's a bold thought, but when analyzing the team's trajectory with and without him, the idea starts to make sense. While Zion is undeniably the franchise's most marketable player since being drafted first overall in 2019, the truth is the Pelicans have shown signs of competitiveness without relying on him. Brandon Ingram, one of the league's most underrated players, has established himself as a consistent and versatile scorer. He can create his own shot, lead offensively, and has proven to be reliable even under pressure. CJ McCollum, meanwhile, has brought experience and stability since arriving from Portland, helping guide the team's young talents while maintaining steady production. These two players, combined with promising talents like Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones, could well sustain the franchise's future. Now, let's look at the facts objectively. Zion has never managed to lead the Pelicans to the playoffs. Other young stars from his generation, like Luka Doncic and Ja Morant, have already made significant impacts on their teams, leading them to success. Luka carried the Dallas Mavericks to the conference finals almost single-handedly, while Morant has transformed the Grizzlies into one of the West's most formidable teams. Zion, on the other hand, struggles to stay healthy enough to make a difference. Furthermore, relying on a player whose game depends on constant physical explosiveness is risky. With frequent injuries and apparent conditioning issues, Zion has proven to be a ticking time bomb for the franchise's financial and competitive health. He takes up significant cap space for the Pelicans, limiting their options to add complementary pieces. Trading Zion might not just be a logical choice, but the best decision to secure a more sustainable future, less dependent on a talent that, in practice, has yet to deliver anything substantial. If Boston decides to gamble on Zion Williamson, what would this mean for their financial structure? In one word, disaster. Zion's Supermax contract puts any acquiring team in a tough position. Boston, already deep in the luxury tax, would find itself even more restricted, with little flexibility for future moves. This is a harsh reality for any franchise hoping to remain competitive long-term in today's NBA. Zion's injury history only darkens the outlook. Even if he has moments of brilliance on the court, his inability to stay healthy raises an unavoidable question. Is it worth committing such a significant portion of the budget to a player who could miss weeks or months at any time? Boston would risk repeating the story of teams like the Clippers, who bet on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, both brilliant players but frequently sidelined by injuries. The result? Inconsistency in critical moments and wasted years chasing promised potential. Another critical point is the impact on other moves. The NBA is a constantly evolving league where financial flexibility is one of the greatest assets for maintaining competitiveness. By taking on Zion's contract, Boston would sacrifice that flexibility, leaving them practically unable to strengthen the roster in critical areas. A team already struggling to manage an expensive core would face the consequences of a move that, while exciting on paper, could end up being devastating in practice. Hey Celtics fanatics! What do you think of this news? Leave your opinion in the comments, as it's highly valued.